Are you short on garden space? Do you still want to grow some fresh herbs? Then these 3 herbs are perfect for a vertical garden planter. Today I'm going to be planting oregano, parsley, and thyme in our vertical garden planter. And I'll show you how we'll be setting it up to grow more food in less space. So these are pretty much going to be the base herbs for a seasoning project that we're going to be starting here out on the homestead. If you've seen the last couple of videos, then you know we've been talking a little bit about that. We want to try and start making our own seasonings, our own spices, our own powders, all that kind of stuff for cooking meals and all that stuff, right? So this video today is pretty much gonna be step 1 in that whole adventure. All right, so check it. Everything that we're gonna be using today, we got our pots, a couple pots here, got some compost here, got a little bag of worm castings. I'll show you exactly how we're gonna mix this all up, what we're gonna be planting in each bucket, all that good stuff. But check this out, check this out. So these are 5-gallon pots, and these 2 pots actually have bagged potting soil. And I know we always talk about this, why go out and buy bags? Look, I bought this bag probably about a year ago. I used it for some other things when I first started gardening, getting into this whole adventure and everything. So don't hate me too much, but we're gonna try an experiment. Okay, we're gonna try an experiment. That's why we got these. Listen up, listen up. So like I said, these 2 are actual bagged potting soil. I think it's Fox Farm, Happy Frog, something like that, But potting soil in these, and then this is regular old dirt / soil from my yard. So I want to do an experiment, right? We're gonna test and see which one of these is better. Is potting soil going to be the MVP? Or is our dirt from our yard, as you can see, is very fertile. A lot of peach tree right here. Got a pomegranate tree over there. A lot of rose bushes, trees. So the dirt is very fertile. So that brings us to, is the dirt going to be better than the potting soil? Or is the potting soil going to be better than the dirt? All right, so first things first, before we even plant our seeds into these pots, we got to get them cleaned up a little bit. And we're gonna add our compost and our worm castings to the pots. Now, since we're gonna do this little competition within our videos here for the soil that we're using, I'm gonna add the compost and worm castings to all pots. I don't want any one pot to have an unfair advantage. All pots are gonna be considered equal for the most part as far as what fertilizers and stuff we add. The only difference is the type of soil that is being used within the pot. But everybody's gonna get the same amount of fertilizers, the same amount of nutrients. Now again, that's not the main point of this video. The main point is getting our seasoning project started, getting our herbs planted, and setting up our vertical garden so you can see how you can still grow food in very little space, my friend. It doesn't take much. And that's the main point of this channel, is teaching you guys out there that you really don't need much to start this journey. Let's get these pots cleaned up. Let's get our compost and our worm casting mixed in. Then we can go ahead and plant. For the 5-gallon pots, the potting soil, it's all pretty loose. There's not much we got to do to this. But these pots here that have the soil from our land, it's a little compact. It's a little tight. So we want to try and loosen it up as much and as best we can to allow for the roots to be able to breathe a little bit better within these pots. So we got it cleaned out. We got anything, weeds, old plants that were in here, we got those out. Now we just kind of want to dig in and mix up the soil a little bit. I had mint in this pot, and I had chamomile in that other pot. So again, it's okay. Like we said in our last couple of videos, it's okay to leave roots in. That only helps the plant. That's more fertilizer, slow release fertilizer over time to help your plants. But as far as the mint, since mint is really invasive and really wild, I do want to try and get much out as possible. So, the type of herb that we plant in here has enough room to breathe without the mint roots blocking them or disturbing them in any way. So we're just going to get in here, pull a lot of this up, get a lot of this out, loosen up this soil. That's the main thing. Loosening up our soil. We just dig down deep in there. You'll feel any other roots that might be in there that you can try and take out. But all in all, I think we're looking good. Throw a little bit of compost and worm castings on top of that. Now for our worm castings, unlike our garden bed, and since we're doing herbs, we want to go very light. We don't need to go too crazy for herbs here. And unlike an actual fertilizer, think of worm castings more as a microbial booster. It's gonna help the roots establish. It's not gonna burn the seedlings, and it's perfect for container herbs, which is what we're doing. A very light sprinkle, so that's perfect right there. And all we're gonna do, mix that in, mix that in. Beautiful, beautiful. We're gonna do that for all our pots here. And then we're gonna throw in a little bit of compost. Think of this as your baseline. It's gonna help improve your drainage. It's gonna feed the microbes, and it's a gentle, slow nutrition for your plants. So I'm just gonna take a handful here, probably a couple of handfuls. Got like, there's about two, that on the top, about two and a half handfuls. And then we're just gonna mix that all together, just like that. Just like that. Now this bucket is ready to plant. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these buckets done real quick, then we'll plant our seeds. All right, we got all our buckets done, prepped, and ready to go. Let's grab our seeds. Let's get planting. All right, so we got our seeds here now. But before we plant, let's talk about how we're gonna plant, how many plants to each pot, depth, spacing, all that good stuff. So as you see, we got two 5-gallon pots here. And then up here, I think these are 3-gallon. I'm pretty sure these are 3-gallon. We got two 3-gallon, two 5-gallon. So the plan is, in the first 5-gallon, we're gonna do some oregano. We should be able to get at least 2 plants of oregano out of this 5-gallon. For this 5-gallon up here on the second shelf, we're gonna do parsley. And we should be able to get 3 parsley plants out of this 5-gallon. And in the 2 3-gallon up here, one of them, we're gonna do thyme, and we should be able to get 1 plant in that. And the other one, we're gonna do more oregano, and we should be able to get 1 plant in that. I wanna do a little bit more oregano. That's the spice everybody loves. I love oregano. And then we got thyme and parsley just to add in some flavor. You remember last video, we just planted garlic. We got onions going. We're gonna be using some of that to make our seasoning powders as well. So I'm excited to start this adventure, get these bad boys planted, get them growing, harvest these bad boys, and make our seasoning. Now about depth and spacing and how many seeds we can put into the pot. For our first one, oregano, we're gonna throw a whole bunch of seeds in there, probably about 15 to 20 seeds into this pot. And all we're gonna do is a surface sow. We're not gonna dig down, we're just gonna sprinkle them along the surface, maybe cover them up a little bit, but pretty much a surface sow for your oregano seeds. Once they grow up, we'll thin these down to 2 plants. The 2 strongest hardy plants, we'll thin them down and keep those 2. For our next 5-gallon with the parsley, we're gonna do about another 15 to 20 seeds for that. And then for those seeds, we're gonna go down about a 1/4 inch depth into the soil, planting the parsley seed. And then for that, like I said earlier, we're gonna thin down to the 3 strongest plants in the parsley. For our thyme that we'll be doing in the 3-gallon, we're only gonna do about 8 to 12 seeds in that. And like the oregano, you wanna go barely covered, almost like a surface sow, cover them very, very lightly on the thyme. And again, we're gonna thin that down to 1 plant. The strongest plant that we see after germination, we'll thin it down to that 1 plant. Now that we know how our depth, our spacing, and how exactly we're gonna plant, and as you can see, how we have set up our vertical garden shelf, 2 small ones on top and the 2 biggest ones on the bottom, middle shelf. And again, if you remember when we built this, we did an offset. So now these 5 gallons will have room to grow up like this because there's an offset on each shelf. It will stick out a little bit and allow for any bushier or taller plants to grow up without being blocked by any shelf. All right, here we go. We got our seeds. We're gonna start with the oregano first. If you see, I already put some water in the pots, get them nice and moist. I didn't want to disturb the seeds, especially the oregano, since we're surface sowing. So we already went ahead, watered the pots, got them nice and wet, nice and moist for the seeds. So we're going to take our oregano here, open that up, get it planted. Yo, check these out. I don't know if you can see in there or not. Them things is small. No wonder why they say surface sow. I mean, check these things out. Look how small those are. So small. So all we're going to do is, we got them off the hand. They're all sprinkled on. We're gonna grab a little bit more. Just gonna sprinkle like that, I guess. All right, I mean, I got them. I think they're sprinkled in there. I see why they're a surface sow now. But anyways, let's get a couple up in this one right here. All right, if you can see, we got a few more in the hand there. We're just gonna sprinkle and try and get them in there, I guess. I mean, there's still more in the pack there, so we're gonna try and just see if we can't just get them out like that. We'll just sprinkle the rest. I mean, I still see a lot. All right, so we just opened the package up like that. We're gonna just try and sprinkle the rest on there. Screw it, huh? Get her going. Get her going. And I think we got the rest of it. So we got a little bit in our 3-gallon. We got a lot in our 5-gallon. Let's move on now to our parsley. So here's our parsley seeds here. Get these opened up. See what these bad boys look like. Our parsley seeds, we got those opened up. Nice. I can actually tell that they're seeds because they're not microscopic little tiny things like the oregano was. That was funny. But so we're just gonna get a few in the pot. That's plenty. That's plenty. That's plenty. So we got a lot of parsley seeds. We used all our oregano, but hey, I want to make sure those things germinate and grow. But as you can see, we got our parsley seeds here, right there. I hope you can see that. So now with these, I'm just gonna sprinkle them all, just kind of like that. You can see that, and then I'm just gonna push down, get them covered up. Push these ones down. Remember I said just about a quarter inch for these. You don't need to go too. They're still pretty small. So about a fingernail's depth worth, fingernail depth. Just push them down, get them all covered up. And here is our thyme seeds. Tomillo in Spanish, Thymus, I guess is the scientific word. Let's open these guys up. See what we're looking like. Nice, it's a Ziploc, so that's cool. They're about the size of the oregano. So we're just gonna, again, put some in the hand there. I think that's plenty. Because we're not going, remember, I think we can only do 1 thyme plant, maybe 2. We might be able to get 2 if we know what we're doing. We might be able to get 2 in that bad boy. I got them in the hand there again. I don't know if you can see that, but they're tiny as heck. And then for this one, we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna sprinkle all around like that. Get them off the hand. There we go. And we're gonna pretty much surface sow on that too. We'll do a little bit of that, do a little bit of this. Thyme and oregano, you're gonna surface sow, barely cover them bad boys. Your parsley, you're gonna go about a quarter inch deep. So oregano, parsley, oregano, and thyme. Remember, we'll thin to 2 to 3 plants. We'll thin to 2 to 3 plants. Thin to 1, maybe 2. Thin to 1, maybe 2. After these germinate. All right, so we're gonna do one more little light water. I got a little bit of water left in here, so we're gonna do a light water on these, and I'll give you a little bit of tips and tricks for that. Now these are gonna want about at least a solid 6 to 8 hours of sun, which is perfect. That's exactly what we're getting right now, especially on this side of the yard over here, and with this planter up against this side of the wall. Perfect amount of sunlight. As for watering, for your oregano, you're going to want to let the soil dry just a little bit before you water again. Parsley likes a consistent moisture, so we'll always be checking. I mean, I come out to the garden every morning, check the water in my beds and all that stuff anyways. But again, oregano, you're going to want to let it dry just a little bit before you water. Parsley, they want consistent moisture, not too wet, not soggy. You know, think like a wrung out sponge is how you want your soil. But consistently, so try not to let your parsley dry too much. And thyme, they prefer the dry side, so you can let them dry out a little bit and then water them again. So don't be too worried about that. But again, like every day you come out and I just do a finger check. I put my finger about 1 inch down into the soil, and if I pick it up and there's dirt on my finger, I'm moist, I'm good, I don't need to water. If I pick it up out of the soil and it's clean, nothing, there's no dirt sticking, then I know I need to water again. So that's a good rule of thumb on checking your water moisture and when you might need to water. The finger trick, that'll never steer you wrong. That's what I do all the time. I don't use no thermometers or gauges or nothing like that. I just put my finger in the soil and I got dirt on my finger, I don't need to water. No dirt on my finger, time to water. Now for harvesting, since these are going to be mostly for making a seasoning powder, once all the plants get about 6 to 8 inches tall, that's when I'm going to make my first cut. But never ever take more than half of the plant. You don't want to stress it too much. You want it to keep growing and keep producing. So never take more than half, but 6 to 8 inches tall is when I'll make my first cut, because I'm going to be doing these for seasonings. Could be different for you. You could let them go, let them grow. You know what I mean? However, I will say frequent light harvesting does allow for better regrowth. And then, of course, you can let them dry in the shade, provided they got good airflow. I don't know exactly how I will dry mine yet, especially since we're making seasoning powders. I've read a couple of different methods, like you can get a little drier machine thingies specifically for this, all that good stuff. But I mean, if you guys out there make your own seasoning powders or you're into that kind of stuff, definitely let me know, because that's exactly what these plants are going to be for, is for making seasoning powders and starting an adventure of, you know, Mundo's Homestead Seasoning, something like that. We don't know yet, but there's some info. It's really easy to do this stuff, guys. I mean, I'm a first generation. This is my first year. Technically, I guess I started last summer of 2025 is when I really started like growing plants and crops and stuff like that. And honestly, you know, nature, nature does a lot. So you don't have to stress it too much. And if you're lacking space and that's what you're worried about, build you a vertical garden planter. Heck, go buy one on Amazon. I'm sure they're not that expensive, but get you something. I mean, look at this. I got 2 5-gallon pots and 2 3-gallon pots. I'm going to be able to grow a lot of, and you don't have to do it. I mean, you can grow anything. I mean, you can get a lot of carrots in a 5-gallon pot. You can get a lot of potatoes in a 5-gallon pot. But all in all, I hope I was able to teach you guys something useful today, or maybe even inspire you to start your own journey in growing your own spices, herbs, crops, whatever it may be. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are getting really, really tired with the way things are going on in this world, and that they might want to start this journey too, but they just don't know how. And I'm hoping I can be that resource for you to be able to get inspired and figure out a way to actually start this. My purpose is to give you the real, raw truth, the grit of this lifestyle. Not that Pinterest stuff, not that Instagram stuff, the real truth, and how exactly you can get started yourself. Thank you all for tuning in to the channel, and thank you all for watching another video here on Mundo's Homestead Adventures. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.